Hey, it's Miami girl Nene. If you like this natural look, stay tuned. It's very beginner friendly. Let's jump straight into it. I will be using this slanted brush with the spoolie at the end and a dark brown pencil from the hair store. So of course you want to brush your eyebrow hairs into place, and then you will outline the bottom of your eyebrow with the pencil and then outline the top of your eyebrow with the pencil. Then you will begin to fill in your eyebrows. Try not to be too heavy-handed with this pencil to avoid dark eyebrows. And now I will be taking my spoolie to brush out the front of my eyebrows so I can achieve that faded look. Now I'm using a concealer from Tarte. I do not see the name of this concealer on the concealer, so yeah. Make sure you take your time with your brows or whoever brows you're doing, because the brows are a big part of the makeup look and they have to be perfect, basically. And now I'm using a Real Techniques brush. I'm not sure what type of brush this is, but it's from Real Techniques. To blend out this concealer, I'm going right ahead and blending it out because it dries kind of quick. Not too quick, but it dries quick. So yeah, you have to know your concealer. If you have to have a unibrow at first to make sure your eyebrows are even, go ahead and do it. As you can see, I have a unibrow, but I will wipe it away later. And now I'm putting that same concealer on my eyelid. I'm using it as an eyeshadow base. I know y'all probably like, why she still got on her lashes, but I had just put them on and I did not feel like taking them off. And now for the top of my brow, I'm using a Tarte concealer in the shade Deep. This is just to avoid a halo brow. If you use a very light concealer on the top of your brow, when you put on your foundation, the light concealer on the top of your brow will stand out, creating a halo brow. And one thing I learned about brows, the tail of your brow, the ending of your brow, it has to be very visible and very like there. Like I used to do eyebrows and the end of it would just be kind of faded. No, it has to be sharp, like sharp. So yeah, that really makes a big difference. So make sure you pay attention to the end of your brow. This is just some translucent CoverGirl powder that I got from Family Dollar one day. I'm just using this to set the concealer on my eyelid to prepare for my eyeshadow. This powder actually works good. It kind of gives a finish like the Laura Mercier powder. It's crazy. Now I will be using the Morphe palette 350 Supernatural Glow. I got this from Ulta Beauty. I love, love, love it. It has some beautiful shimmers in it. I will be using this brown color, and that is the only color I will be using. I'm not going anywhere. I just did this for the sake of the YouTube video, so I'm just gonna slap that on and keep it moving. And now I'll be using this primer by NYX called Honey Do Me Up. I love, love, love this primer. It's so hydrating. I got this from Ulta Beauty. And yeah, and I'm smiling right now because it's time to put on my face and I'm ready. Now I'll be using this thick foundation by Milani in the shade Chestnut. This is like the perfect shade for me. I love using a brush to put on my foundation or a beauty blender. It doesn't matter, to be honest. But you want to do patting motions, no swiping, because swiping will create streaks. No, you want to have full coverage and pat it into the skin. And make sure you get under your neck, over there, down by your ear, everything, so everything can flow together and it doesn't look like a mask. Okay, so I was using the concealer by Tarte in the shade Deep at first, but then I ran out, so I switched over to Tan Deep Sand. So for my beginners, let's talk and learn. So about the concealer and the contour. The concealer is the lighter stuff that you see me putting on my nose, forehead, under my eyes, chin, and upper lip. And then you will see me get a darker concealer and use that as contour to contour my cheeks, sides of my nose, and my forehead. You have to know your placement. Once you learn your placement, it's easy, and then you can just blend everything together. Now for my contour, I'm using Tarte in the shade Deep Honey. This is literally about only one shade darker than I am. I'm going for a natural look, so I'm not going to use a contour that's too harsh. And this is the contour that I was talking about that goes on the cheeks, the sides of the nose, and the forehead. You have to really learn your placement of where the concealer goes and where the contour goes. The concealer, it conceals, it's light, it's a lighter color. And the contour, it shapes out your cheeks and give you bone structure, a bone structure look. So learn the difference. So now that you have your contour and your concealer in the correct placements, now you just blend everything out. I like to blend out my contour first because it gives time for my concealer, which is under my eye, to really set in place, instead of you just putting it on and blending it straight out. Once you let it sit and dry a little, it's right, it's stuck, it's up, and it's stuck. Now I'm going to blend out my concealer. One thing about blending, so remember I talked about placement. You put your concealer under your eye and wherever you put it, okay? You do not want to blend it out of place. Like, you see how it's under the eye? If I go way down, blending it all the way down and just going out of place, out of pocket, it's gonna mess up my placement. The point of placement is so it can be in place. You cannot blend things out of place, so keep that in mind. For instance, when I first started doing my makeup, I used to put on concealer and all of that, and I would still look like I only put on one shade. But that was because I was blending out of place. Everything mixed in together, and it was just crazy. And now you will see me put on more concealer because I really want my under eyes to be bright and stand out, because that's the trend now, like a very popping under eye. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. I'm just making sure under my eyes are good. I like using a brush over a beauty blender for the simple fact that I'm heavy-handed and I do too much with the blender. So yeah, I love the brush. It gives a very skin-like, very smooth finish. I love it. So now to set my concealer, I will be using this powder by Morphe called Banana Rich. You want to dip your brush in the powder, tap off the excess powder, and go ahead and set your concealer. This gives you a even powder base on top of your concealer, instead of just going in, dipping your beauty blender in some powder and putting all that powder in one spot under your eye and then blending the rest out. This gives you a even base. You must set first and then you bake. And this is me putting on the rest of the powder so I can bake. Baking is just you letting powder sit under your eye or wherever you put your concealer, and it basically gives you a brighter pop, basically. Now I will be using this MAC foundation powder in the shade NW43. I will be using the same brush I use for my foundation. I am using this powder to contour. So basically you use a liquid contour, a liquid concealer, and then you use baking powder where you put the concealer, and then you use a powder where you put the contour. The powder is so everything can set in place, because imagine if you had just liquid products on your face. Your eyes will be creasing, you will be sweating. The powder really locks in everything. So yeah, that's how it works. And now, after I went over the places I contour with that darker powder, I am now going under my contour, under my cheekbone, and I am outlining my cheekbone so it can stand out, basically. This Juvia's Place blush. You see how the palette looks. I'm not sure of the name, but I love it. It has so much pigment and it's very beautiful. Like, it gives very much cherry. And do not bring that blush all the way over there by your lip. It goes on the cheek only. It's just something about when you put your lips on, it just be like, I'm ready. I am ready, okay? And now I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me Pressed Powder in the shade 330. I am using this to dust off that powder, that baking powder that I put on my face. This just makes everything flow together and be even. If I dust this powder off without this powder, it's going to be ashy or uneven, or this just avoids any of that. It gives a beautiful, flawless, even, full finish, and I love it. Like, just watch this. Okay, so I was trying something new. I don't know why, but under your cheekbone, use a powder, a pressed powder that's the same color as your skin tone. Do not dust it off with that same powder you used under your eye. Under your eye is bright. You don't want under your cheekbone bright also. It needs to be, see, now I'm going to go in with it. See, it needs to be the shade of your skin tone up there under that cheekbone. So yeah, don't be like me, skip that part. Just use under your cheekbone when you dust off the powder, use a pressed powder that's the same color as your skin tone. See how under my cheekbone right there, you can see it's kind of a little too bright right there. That's because I did the first step wrong, but I eventually fixed it later. So yeah. And this is the finished look. Very beginner friendly, very natural, but full coverage. Like, you can't beat that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.